Picture using your phone to record a song, a conversation, an aeroplane taking off. Listening to the sounds the next day takes you straight back to the moment you recorded it. But how would you react hearing it again, in a year, 10 years or longer? As time goes on, the recording you made acts as a portal, giving listeners a glimpse into a moment frozen in time. Dialects change, music develops, the everyday sounds of vehicles and wildlife move on in unpredictable ways. But the recording will be there to remind us where we came from and give a fascinating window into the past. Sadly, there are thousands of undocumented recordings in archives around the country which are starting to deteriorate. If we don't act fast, these links with our past will be lost to time. So, the British Library launched Save Our Sounds and enlisted 10 hubs across the UK to preserve our audio history before it's too late. We're going to look at the work of the Midlands Hub, based here in the University of Leicester, as part of a strand called Unlocking Our Sound Heritage. The Midlands Hub has already rescued thousands of fragile and deteriorating recordings, digitising them so they can be listened to, learned from, and shared with the public. Sounds simple, right? Getting to this point has taken a lot of time and a surprising amount of detective work. Let's take a look and a listen to how this all came about. I project manage the Midlands Hub for the Unlocking Our Sound Heritage project. Experts reckon we've got about 15 years for the most at-risk sound recordings until they become either unplayable or there's no equipment left to play them on. We have worked with museums, private collections, archives across the Midlands, and so we've taken in these recordings, we've preserved them, which means we've digitised them and we've catalogued them. Copies have been sent to the British Library, but we're also returning the digitised copies with the paperwork to the people who had them in the first place, the collection holders, the archives and museums. And we've preserved thousands of recordings that might otherwise have been lost to posterity.
Definitely feel like an audio archaeologist, really. These physical items are actually breaking down. Some items that turn up, they're mouldy. Unfortunately, with this project, there's been around 5 CDs and 1 cassette tape that we haven't been able to rescue. The CDs are basically just corrupted. The actual optical die is broken down, and with 1 cassette tape, the tape had physically broken down. Once you play a tape and you listen to someone's voice, and it gives so much weight to this story and the person.
My name is Tom Averill, and I was the son of a farmer, and I joined the TA in Worcester, more for the reason for getting another night out from work, so I joined the Territorial Army, and that was in May 1939. And when people start talking about service, I often say I joined the army before Hitler got into Poland.
My job is to take unknown recordings and try and work out what they're about and write a concise catalogue description that then helps the end user to be able to find them in the catalogue and understand what they're about. One of the most difficult things to describe is when an interviewee has a really thick accent. Listening to Derbyshire or histories from the 1950s, it was really difficult, but it was very satisfying in the end.
I reckon if we start the days that we were both in a territory to start today, somebody say, oh, what was the day, can't we, really?
Doing this project and cataloguing so many different recordings has definitely helped me appreciate just the unique sounds that go on around us.
Over the course of the project, we've invited people in to learn about sound archiving and preservation. And a particularly satisfying project was creating new resources for reminiscence work with people who have dementia. We, of course, have particularly lots of voices in our oral history collections, and these are voices who speak in local accents. And it turned out to be very successful. People did identify with the local, the places, and of course, each of the collection holders who we've preserved material for, potentially they can do this too for their own local region.
I first got involved with the Unlocking Our Sound Heritage project during my master's year. I undertook a wide variety of roles, from cataloguing, writing blogs. I was also involved in creating an online sound map of Leicestershire and Rutland. We created an interactive map where viewers could click on a point and hear either an extract from an oral history interview or ambient sounds from around the county. I think what made my work important was the fact that there's all these sound collections that people don't know of and aren't aware of, and so it's been really important to help digitise them and make them more accessible.
An audio recording will contain a lot of rights depending on the type of recording that it is. At the moment, we've been doing oral history interviews, so the rights will belong to the person who organised the project, so they have the physical recording, so that's their rights, and then also the speakers within the recording, but also the words that they say. And all of those rights have to be cleared so that we can put the recordings online and use it in any other way, like education or promotional. A lot of the interviewees that I've been looking for are sadly no longer with us, so I've been in contact with the next of kin, and quite often they didn't realise that their relative had actually done these interviews, so it's nice for them to hear their loved ones' voices again, and that's a real highlight for this job.
The problem with sound recordings is that the equipment becomes obsolete as technology changes. So it was important for us to look at the material we held and think about, well, how are we going to make sure people can listen to this material in the future? Now that the recordings have been digitised, we're hoping that we're going to be able to undertake some outreach activities, maybe do some exhibitions, sound bites on our social media. This project offers us a chance to choose from a much wider range of material.
When we return the recordings to the collection holders, we don't just give them back the recordings, of course. We also try and pass on information about how these collections can then be used as well. Because, of course, for the first time, they're in a digital format. Looking forward, we are really keen to keep the sound preservation aspect of the work we've done going. We're going to keep the equipment, we're going to keep the expertise in-house, and we will be offering a sound preservation service to people who want it in the future. But that's not all we want to do. We really want people to use the material, so we're going to offer encouragement and help and advice to any of the collection holders we've worked with, and anyone else for that matter, on how to use sound.
Well, it may be that when I've said a few things, you may be able to pick something up. Yes, well, I'll open up by telling you who I am. My name is Tom Averill, and I was the son of a farmer.